Hey everybody, back again. Happy Friday to all. And we're going to be covering my 2010 Mazdaspeed 3. So basically with this car, I did not know exactly what I wanted. I was thinking about getting maybe an 8th gen Civic Si since I had the RSX and I'm kind of familiar with the whole Honda thing. But I wanted to try something a little bit different. I ended up going to look at a think it probably was like a 2009 or a 2010 Subaru WRX, and I also drive a Volkswagen GTI. But they weren't I wasn't really feeling them as much as I thought I would, so I kept on looking and I did my research and I finally landed on a 2010 Mazdaspeed 3. It was silver. Again, you're going to see a lot of trend with that particular color, but it had a black and a red interior, which I liked. It was a very good looking car. So if you don't know anything about the Speed 3, here's a little quick overview of it. It has a 2.3 liter turbo 4 engine going to the front wheels, and it was a hatchback, which was something I really liked. I always liked hatchbacks. They kind of had the ability to be very fun, but extremely utilitarian at the same time. So my particular model was the fully loaded one. It had the tech package on it. It had the Bose audio with the sub in the trunk where the spare tire was. So the sound system sounded pretty good, decently. Sounded better than the previous cars I've had. So I don't know if that's saying a lot, but it was better than what I was used to. It also had navigation and Bluetooth audio and hand controls on the steering wheel and all that kind of stuff. The navigation, I'll go into that a bit later. But so the mod list that I ended up putting on this car was first and foremost, the thing I bought was a Cobb access port. Now, Cobb does a whole bunch of stuff from BMWs to Subarus to I think they do GTRs and some Porsches and stuff like that now too. So all of that stuff, and they ended up doing my Mazda as well. So I went with that, and for the first, I guess it's called Stage One or just a basic reflash, which basically what it did was got rid of the the boost by gear, which was added by Mazda after the Gen One because I had a Generation Two that tried to help deal with the torque steer problems that the car had. I mean, from the factory, the car had 260 something horsepower and 280 something foot pounds of torque, which is insane for a front wheel drive car, but you know, it is what it is. But so the next thing that I needed to do after doing some research and talking to some of the guys who have been tuning these cars for a while is since it's a direct injection engine, I needed to get a high pressure fuel pump. Now there's two ways you can go with the high pressure. You can either get the complete pump assembly in which, they send the whole package thing, it's just a quick swap, one in, pull the other one out, and they charge you a lot more money for it up front, but you get the money back in a core charge. So that is one way you could go, or you could get the internals, which means you pull apart a pump, you swap out the internals, you put your original factory pump back together, and you throw it back in the car. What I did is I got the the pump, the whole assembly, swapped in, done deal, get my core charge back, call it a day. So I didn't want to worry about the internals or anything like that. So once I did that, I was able to kind of open Pandora's box, as it were, with the modifications. So I ended up getting a Cork Sport filter and a turbo inlet pipe, which basically made whoosh and sneezing noises, which was cool. I never had a turbo car before, so you kind of step on the gas, zzz, kind of thing, which was it's fun. You know what I mean? So that's what I kind of got it for. And then I ended up also getting the Cobb XLE bypass valve. And then it was one of those things that you can kind of either put it in full recirc, or you could do a full vent to atmosphere, or you can kind of do a 50-50 joint. And I did the 50-50 because I wanted some recirc, but I also wanted the blow off valve noises, so I was happy with it. The next thing that was done was top mount intercooler. Now, at this time, I lived in New Jersey, so it does get hot in Jersey, but most of the year it's cool to cold. So having a top mount heat soak wasn't that really big of a problem. So with that, it ran pretty well. I didn't really have any issues with it. About my charge temps were not as low as it would be if I had a front mount, but again, I was running a factory turbo and that kind of stuff, so I didn't need any insane, you know, insanely low boost temperatures for a high pressures of boost and all that kind of stuff. It was still a factory turbo, so it was okay with that. But the second I moved to Atlanta, and Atlanta is probably like 50-50. It gets cool during the winter and it's hot as hell during the summer. So that is kind of when, the little light off went off in my head, and I was like, all right, I need to get a front mount because just sitting in traffic, I'm watching the bats just climb and climb and climb. So the next thing I got for that while I was in Atlanta was pretty much to get myself a front mount intercooler. The next one of the other things that you need to do if you want to start putting some power through this thing is you need to get a down pipe or a test pipe or a header combination or any of that kind of thing. So the first thing I did is I had a catless header and test pipe initially, but eventually I swapped over to a full down pipe with a cat in it. It just sounded better to me. It didn't sound as barky and raspy and stuff like that with a cat in it, so I think it sounded a lot better. And then I ran the OEM exhaust. I never did buy a full exhaust for it, but what I did do is I didn't want to shout people like, hey, here I come, or like hear me coming from 4 blocks away. So I kept the OEM exhaust on it. And then what happened is I took it to a muffler shop and I got the resonator removed and just put a piece of pipe in it. And it sounded pretty nice. So I was happy with that. As far as non-power mods went, I did like HPS Hawk brakes. I think they were just not the track pads or anything like that. Again, it was a street car, just something a little bit better than the stock ones I had. I had a rear sway bar. I forgot who I bought it from, along with end links. And then I also had a rear chassis brace that kind of went across the trunk pretty much. So I had to cut into the little sidewalls of the sides of the words are escaping me. Come on, Chris, English. The sides of the trunk. I had to cut little holes in it and then put the brace in there. It didn't really cut down on cargo room, and then the really cool thing was it had a quick release. So if you had to have anything that was really big that you had to throw back there, you push the 2 buttons on the tab, pull it, and the little bar would drop out, which was really neat. I like that. That was a cool feature. And then the last and final thing was I got a Bnr Stage One Turbo. I ended up getting around, I think that my tuner said, I was looking like I should be around 300 wheel horsepower and probably 330-ish wheel torque, just by judging by mods and what he's seen before on other vehicles. And man, when I got that Stage 1 Turbo in it, car ran like a champ. I didn't have any issues. But yeah, those were the mods that I pretty much had on the car. So now just to talk about the ownership of the vehicle. This car was, oof, she had some issues to say the least. But I mean, I didn't make me hate the car or not have any less fun in it. It just took a lot more time under the hood than I would like. It's just the facts of my car. Other people might have a different experience. It's just me. But if I had to buy another one, I would, but I just keep it stock. Maybe put an exhaust system on it because, yeah, I'm good. Okay, anyway, we'll get into that later. So the best thing, one of the defining features of it was the power of the thing. And I mean, it was just one of them cars that you just put it in gear, put your foot on the floor, and this thing would pull like a freight train. It was impressive, especially when you come from a low torque car like a Honda Civic or an RSX in my case. So it was just like night and day driving it. And then also with that, I kind of had to retrain my brain when I was driving the car because as a former Honda driver, all your power and stuff is up top. But when you get a car that has a factory turbo or a smallish size turbo, the power band changes drastically. So My Mazda would be about 3,000 RPM to about 5,500 would be where the most power in the vehicle from the engine. So it did have a 6.5K redline ish around there, but revving it up that high was pretty much useless because you could just feel the power just kind of drop off like it hit a cliff. So, your best shifting at 5,500 with the factory turbo on it. It was very comfortable to drive. The seats were not as supportive as I would like, but it's a daily driver, so I could cover long distance in it and it wouldn't wear me out or anything. So that was a good thing. But then my main complaint about the car, it had a nav system, but it might as well have been on a fucking postage stamp. This thing was tiny. And then again, I don't have really good eyes. I wear glasses. So trying to read any directions on the navigation screen was just stupid. So eventually I just ignored it altogether. And like most people, you just use your phone. So the stereo was really good. I like the steering wheel controls. It was nice and thought out. So it got to a point where, as with anything, you're just running off of muscle memory. You don't really have to look down. And the keys on the steering wheel were pretty well laid out that, you could feel your way around without really taking your eyes off the road. So that was a good thing. It was very fun to drive. It was sporty. You had no problems with throwing it into a corner. It would hold on. Naturally, if you pushed it really hard, she would understeer. It's a front wheel drive car, so that's what it's going to do. The wheel had good feedback from the tire, so you can kind of feel when the point was starting to slip and stuff like that. And the clutch was easy to operate. The shifter was light. It was fun to roll through the gears. And yeah, it was a joy to drive. Honestly, it wasn't the best handling hot hatchback, or it wasn't the most luxurious, but it was just a joy to drive, and I enjoyed being in it, which was kind of a theme for my cars after that mess that Oldsmobile had that I had to own for a little while. Hatchback is always a plus. As I said before, you can throw massive amounts of junk or whatever you wanted into the rear of it because, you drop the seats down and boom, whatever you want to fit, you could almost pretty much fit in there. I mean, I see why the Europeans love them so much. I personally am a fan of hatchbacks, and especially of hot hatchbacks, the cars that you can throw a Chester drawer in the back, drive it to where you need to go, and then you can drive like a hooligan on the way home. It's just so cool to have that. Now, the other issue with this car was the problems that I had with it. So, in my younger days, as most people do, when they have a cool car, they start modding it, and that's kind of where you kind of run into problems. To me, if I didn't touch the car, I just left it stock, maybe threw an exhaust system and a shifter on it and stuff like that, it would have been bulletproof. I wouldn't have had no issues with it. But when you start doing stupid stuff, issues arise with it. So for me, adding boost to the KO4 turbo that comes with the car factory, basically, as far as I'm concerned, turns into a fucking time bomb. It was just a matter of time before the thing eventually went poof. And it did for me. I turned the car on one day and I'm driving along, and then next thing you know, it looks like I'm in a steam engine from the old west with just smoke pouring out the back of the fucking exhaust system. And I'm like, oh damn it, there goes the turbo. So I took it to some NJ Nader guys. Get into who and what all the Nader stuff later, which is I rhymed, but I'll get into the car club stuff later. But so eventually I got another KO4 turbo thanks to these guys, and got it put in on the cheap. And the car didn't really give an issue after that for a long period of time, which I was happy about. So I was driving it and doing my normal hooliganisms and all that kind of stuff. And no issues whatsoever and I kept the car as it was. But eventually I got to a point where I had to move for another job, and I moved down to Atlanta. And as I'm driving to work one day in Atlanta, bam, turbo number 2 goes out. And I was just like, all right, there's no way in hell I'm putting another KO4 in this car. I'm tired of doing this job. And it's absolutely stupid to put another KO4 in it because it's just a matter of time before that one goes out. So I started shopping around for different types of turbos and stuff like that to put in the car. So eventually, there's a bunch of different turbos. You can get a 3076, a 78, 76 GTX. There's a bunch of different blah, 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 blah turbo designations that you could fit in this car. So eventually, I found a company called Bnr. They made a stage 1 and a stage 3. So the stage 3 is the upgraded bigger turbo that would give you a lot more. But you could probably do about 350, 400 wheel horsepower safely in the car. And it has a tried and true reputation. A lot of guys in the community ran a stage 3. My ass was tired of changing turbos, tired of all this silliness, and I was just like, give me something that I can run the levels that I have now and the turbo won't eat itself. And the guy said, "You want a stage 1?" I was like, "Yes, give me the stage 1." So that's eventually what they sent me. And then I had that put in the car. And after I had that put in, I had a local Mazda guy from Georgia, a Nader guy from Georgia, tune the car for me, and that's how I eventually ended up with the 330 torque and 300 horsepower. So that was kind of like my final straw with it. I was like, I'm driving it now as it is, and I'm tired of just working on it. By this time, it had the front mount intercooler in it. By this time, it had the downpipe and all that kind of stuff. I was just swapping turbos out the damn thing, and I was like, I'm done. I just put something reliable in it that makes it drive the way it has been driving since I've owned it. Done. So that was it. And on a side note, when you don't have access to a dyno, you have to street tune. And I don't really recommend it for people, especially when you have to do a third gear pull. It's okay if you're in a slower car, but the car I have, that Mazda, when you put it in third gear, I mean, you'd be doing easily over 100 miles an hour in like a snap of a finger, you know what I mean? So not exactly the safest thing to do. I always recommend dyno tuning. Don't street tune it if you don't absolutely have to, right? So that's basically the car, and now I'm just going to basically talk about the car community that came along with the car ownership. So basically, they have the car club called Nader. I don't know what it stands for. I never asked. I just kind of accepted it as it was. Have at it, whatever. So I first joined up with guys from New Jersey, and as most car clubs go, they're a bunch of cool people. They're from all walks of life and all different types of jobs and different backgrounds and stuff like that. It was a mix of Gen 1 and Gen 2 owners. And what we would do usually, I think it was on a Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday. I might be getting this wrong. Wednesday or Thursday. It might even be a Tuesday. I know it was kind of in the middle of the week that we'd all meet up at the Chipotle on Route 22 in Jersey. So we would go there, hang out, eat food that would give us diarrhea, and just kind of stand in the parking lot and talk about car stuff for the most part. It was it was a good time. There's a bunch of guys with various different types of cars in different states of repair, disrepair, and running. So I mean, some guys were stock, other guys had E85, some had big turbos, various sizes. Like I said before, you can go off the deep end with what type of turbo and what type of power you want to build and all that kind of stuff. And there was a bunch of cool different guys. I'm just gonna go off of memory here. I don't really remember everybody that I interacted with. And there's Teddy, Nishan, Mark, Pablo. Um, yeah, I'm forgetting people I know, and I'm sorry. But a side note that Nishan and Pablo, they've opened up their own performance factory called Speed Performance. You spell it PERF6RMANC3. And if you want to go check them out, they do a bunch of Mazdaspeed stuff, whether you have a Speed 3 or Speed 6. They also do EcoBoost cars, which is cool, the Focus, Fiesta, and the ST, as well as the RS and the EcoBoost Mustang. So Nissan does awesome work. Uh, yeah, definitely go seek him out if you have one of those types of cars. And basically, these things were highway missiles, man. You just point them down the freeway and you just gun it, and the car would just pull and pull and pull. It was a lot of fun to have that kind of vehicle, you know. And then I was at that age too. I didn't know that much about motorsport, and I was still learning about it. And you know, dumping a couple of gears and letting the turbo do its work after a long day at work was just, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. So after I left New Jersey, I moved to Atlanta, and I joined up with the Georgia guys pretty much. And again, great group of guys. And this one was a bit more active than the Jersey crew was. There was a lot of install days and barbecues and stuff like that we went to. And we had different events, and we just hanging out, you know, enjoying each other's company. And it was really a good time. And some of the guys were located in Atlanta, and the other guys were down in Benning. So we had to drive down to Benning, me and like three or four other guys. And sometimes the guys from Benning would drive up to Atlanta. It was about an hour and a half, 2 hour drive, but it was a straight shot. It wasn't that complicated to get there, and we had a good time. There was two Robs. There was American Rob. I think he was from California, and then there was South African Rob, very cool guy. There was John, Chris, uh, Devin, I think his name was. It was a bunch of guys just coming together and just having a good time. We had I ended up having a dyno day too. I'll put a link in the video or down in the description or something like that for the dyno day that we had, and we put each other's cars down there. We had a few extra people that showed up. There was like a Beamer and an AMG Merc, and I think it was a Vet, a C6 Grand Sport or something like that that ended up showing up. It was a good time. You know, we had a cookout, and we're drinking beers and just shooting the shit, which was a lot of fun. And then uh, the guy Rob from California, he ended up being the guy in Georgia that tuned my car. And in its final form with the front mount and the Stage One Turbo and all that kind of stuff, the car ran like a dream. I had no problem with it whatsoever. And from then on, I just kept it as stock. And then another guy whose car that was in process was a guy named John. He did some built block head, massive turbocharger on this damn thing. I'll have some pictures in the video as it's running and stuff like that, so you guys can take a look at this thing. And I mean, it was just insane. You eventually you get to a point with a car that you have to take physics into account, and I don't think he did. It's not a dig at him or anything like that, but you can only put so much power to the road in a road car. You know what I mean? And you can have a car or the engine that makes 5,000 horsepower or 10,000 horsepower, whatever it is. It's just you still have to get that power from the engine through the clutch, through the transmission, through the axles, onto the wheels, and through the tires. And tires only have so much grip, so, and even with the factory car, as you buy it right off the showroom floor, boom, the thing blows the tires off the wheels anyway. So it was kind of like, I don't know why you're doing this, but it's fucking cool. Hats off to you, brother, but I don't know how useful the car is going to be on the road with that much power going through the front wheels and you driving around on street tires, dude. I mean, even if you have really good street tires, I mean, if unless you want to drive around on drag radials, but even then, you're still going to blow the tires off the damn thing with the amount of power that goes through. But hey, not my car, not my build. He loved it. Cool. By all means, do your thing. But yeah, in conclusion, it's just kind of, again, the whole Nader crew, regardless of 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 what state you go to, it seems to be a very, very, very cool group of people. And then finally, I ended up in Michigan, where I am now to this day. And again, folks here in Michigan, extremely welcoming. I mean, we have a friendsgiving every year, and we sit around, eat food, talk, drink beers, and just kind of catch up with what's going on. I mean, most of us don't even really have speeds anymore, but there's a camaraderie and a connection with people that you have a love of cars with, regardless of whatever you're driving now. It could be a Tesla, or it could be a Camaro or a Merc or a BMW or an Audi or a Nissan, whatever. But there's still that connection, that a love of something that all of you have. You might have different opinions or different views of life and stuff like that, but that's something that you can always connect with somebody, with a person in a car community. You can always connect with somebody because of that one little common interest that all you guys have. And the vehicles, they come and they go, but the folks you meet along the way make the money spent, the knuckles busted, the curses yelled, and frustration and anger, but they make it all worth it, man, to me. And it's not something that I would for trade in for anything, man. It's always good to have that sense of community, and you do your best to be an asset to it and not a hindrance. But yeah, that's about it for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, like, subscribe, comment, do whatever you need to do. I'll put some extra video links in the description below of the Mazda that I had. Maybe any extra videos I have driving it or something like that, or the dyno day and all that kind of stuff down in the description. And just let me know what you guys think, and just share it around if you please. Enjoy your weekend. Take it easy, and have a beer for me. Later.